just want to say welcome to our main Bible topic. This morning, we'll be continuing the study on the third angel. And we'll pick up with this quote where we left off. We're going to read it again. But before that, my name is Salvador Gomez. Just a quick introduction for those that might not know who I am. But most importantly, we're studying the first, second, and third angel's message of Revelation 14, 6 through 13. We are now on the third angel, and it would be very good if you're listening to this message for the first time for you to go back if you haven't heard the first and second angel. It would be very important for you to listen to that first, in order to receive the messages in their order. There's an order to these messages, as we will see here in this quote that we'll read again. It says, the first and second messages were given in 1843 and 1844. And we are now, she says, when she wrote this, under the proclamation of the third. And as you can see at the very bottom, it says this was written November 8th, 1896. Okay, so this was some years after 1844, but yet and still, she says, we are now under the proclamation of the third. Now, it says, but all three of these messages, or let me read it again carefully, but all three of the messages are still to be proclaimed. Again, this is why I had mentioned if you haven't gone through the first and second, there would be no way for you to be able to give those messages. And so on this YouTube page, you can find the playlist, the first and second angel's message. And notice what it says. It is just as essential now in her time as ever before that they shall be repeated to those who are seeking for the truth. And so now she's speaking of those that would be seeking for the truth in the future. Okay? This is why it needs to be repeated. And when we repeat something, we're not making up something new. We're saying the exact same thing that they said. Right? Okay. So she says, they shall be repeated to those who are seeking for the truth. That's us. We're seeking for it, and therefore we need to go back and find it in the old publications and writings. By pen and voice, we are to sound the proclamation, showing their order. Again, there's the order to these messages. Just like there's an order to the alphabets, just like there's an order to the numbers 1, 2, and 3, right? You can't put the 3 before the 1, right? And you can't put the 2 before the 1. It's 1, 2, 3. As easy as that, okay? And it says we are to show their order and the application of the prophecies. And this reminds us that there's the 14 rules of prophetic interpretation. That would be the correct application. So if there's a correct application, there's also a false or spurious application. Right? How we understand these messages found in Revelation 14, 6 through 13, there would be a true and there would be all false. Right? Satan always tries to divert our attention and tries to do away from the true understanding. And this way, we are now in darkness. We are now uh, uh, distracted from the original message. And so, this is why we need to understand that the true application of the prophecies that bring us to the third angel's message. There cannot be a third without a first and a second. These messages we are to give to the world in publications, and the red color on there is just to emphasize to the world in publications, in discourses showing the line of prophetic history, the things that have been and the things that will be. And this is exactly what Christ promised in uh, John 16, that he would show us things to come. And the Comforter would receive from Christ what is his and show it unto us. We just studied that. And here we have it as well. In the first, second, and third angel's message. And one of the first things that we saw is that Mrs. White, Mrs. Ellen Harmon, began to receive visions. This was one of the first things that happened. We read some of it already, and we were able to see that in that vision she saw a path. It was high above the world, and those that were on it were on their way to the city. Remember that? And that there was a great light behind them that gave them light for their feet. And that light was the true midnight cry. The true midnight cry was given in August 1844. Okay? That light gives them light to their feet so that they would not stumble all the way down the path. That light never goes away. It never changes from one light to another. In other words, that light continues to be truth all the way down to eternity. Okay? That's how important that light is. And so again, if you don't know what that true midnight cry is, that was given under the first and second angel's message, it would be important to go back and see the videos and study it out for your own good. Now, here's the vision that was given to her, but we're gonna begin from the very beginning. It was called the. This was from a publication that was written, uh, a word to the little flock, and it was called "To the Remnant Scattered Abroad." Okay, to the remnant scattered abroad. Um, where after 1844, we know that this was going to be the scattering. The gathering time. What does it mean to gather? To gather, gather. If something is scattered, what does it mean to gather? Bring it together. Bring it together. Right? Okay. So here, this publication, after the great disappointment in 1844, there were just a small group, about 50, that were continuing, right, to study. But because of the time prophecies that they understood to be true under the midnight cry, the 7 times, the scattering, right? That's why they use this title, to the remnant scattered. Okay, because they were still scattered after that time, and so now we're in the gathering time. So this publication, the purpose was to gather, to bring them together. Okay. Now notice what she says from word to the little flock. It says, "As God has shown me," again, this is Alan Harmon, "in holy vision the travels of the Advent people to the holy city, and the rich reward to be given those who wait the return of their Lord from the wedding. It may be my duty to give you a short sketch of what God has revealed to me." And that's exactly what it was. It was her duty. God told her to reveal these things to all of us. Okay? We'll see that she writes that down. She continues to say, "The dear saints have got many trials to pass through." How many? Many. And what are trials? Difficulties. Okay? There are many different obstacles, right? That we must go through. Things that might make us sad. Things that might try our faith to see whether or not we truly love God and want to be with Him. Is that just? ¿Es justo que Dios nos dé pruebas para ver si lo amamos? ¿Verdad que sí? It is. It's the right thing. If we really love God, then we need to prove it, right? And we need to be able to see it for ourselves. Most importantly, do I love God? My faith should show it. What I believe, right? Notice. It says, "But our light afflictions," she calls them light afflictions, de no mucho peso, "which are but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding weight, more exceeding an eternal weight of glory. While we look not at the things which are seen," not what we can see, "for those things which are seen are temporal." The things that we see today, the things that are right before our eyes at this moment, those are just temporal. Then she says, yeah, they're temporal. That we won't always have these things. But the things which are not seen are eternal. Okay? We need to try to remember that. That these things that we see today, those things are just temporal. One day they will be replaced with things that we cannot see. And those are eternal. They're going to last for the rest of eternity. Forever and ever and ever and ever. That's eternal. Okay? And we're going to see what those things are. She writes about it here. Okay? We'll try to see as much as we can. But we won't take too long, okay? We want to make sure that we understand. We're going to take our time. There's questions. You're able to ask questions. As long as it's about what we're reading. It's not. Let's try to stick to the subject, okay? This is the third angel. "I have tried to bring back a good report." Okay? Notice what she's saying here. She tried to bring back a good report and a few grapes from the heavenly Canaan.
When she said to bring back a good report is when she had a vision?
Yes. Yes, you're exactly right. That report that she had, that she's giving us here, uh, God told her, what you saw, I want you to go tell them. That's a report.
Okay.
Okay. She says, that's a very good question. Thank you. And a few grapes from the heavenly Canaan, for which many would stone me, as the congregation bade stone Caleb and Joshua for their report. In other words, when she began to tell people, it wasn't welcome. A lot of people
They
did not.
reject.
Yeah, they said no. You
They
something's
don't
wrong with
believe.
you. You know,
They think they
and
are sick. Nah, she's sick and she has maybe.
mental issues, right?
Yeah.
And so, just like remember Caleb and Joshua, they were spies. We saw it on Amazing Stories.
Sí.
Um, they went to go spy the land. This was the first time,
Yeah.
okay? And then when they went and came back, they brought the report and said, "Oh, that land is beautiful. We can go and take it." But there was giants. There was obstacles. There was different trials before them that they had to uh, conquer before they can take it. See, but though they were the only ones that gave the good report, they had faith. They believed that God was with them to overtake it. And so when they gave the good report, there were other spies, and they gave a bad report. The spies were afraid of the giants. When they gave the message, right? There was two messages, one good report and a bad report. The people believed the bad report, and they wanted to stone Caleb and Joshua for the good report. This is the parallel she's giving of what happened to her when she began to share the report. Okay? Notice, and we have the Bible verse, Numbers 14:10. If you ever want to look at that, you can do that on your own time. Take notice of the Bible verses. But I declare to you, my brethren and sisters in the Lord, it is a goodly land, and we are well able to go up and possess it. That is exactly what Caleb and Joshua said. Okay? Now, notice what she continues to say. And this is the part that we had already read, but we're going to go over it. Okay? We're going to go over it because it's part of that same vision. We had just taken a little portion of it so that we can illustrate that um, the el camino, the road that she saw. You can see it right there. See?
Yeah.
Notice, while I was praying at the family altar, this is the good report.
Okay.
The Holy Ghost fell upon me, and I seemed to be rising higher and higher, far above the dark world. I turned to look for the Advent people in the world, but could not find them. When a voice said to me, "Look again, and look a little higher." Okay? At this, I raised my eyes and saw a straight and narrow path. And this is, you can find this in Matthew 7:14. Cast high above the world. On this path, the Advent people were traveling to the city, which was at the farther end of the path. They had a bright light set up behind them at the beginning of the path, which the angel told me was the midnight cry. Matthew 25:6. This light shone all along the path and gave light for their feet so that they might not stumble. Okay, notice that light goes all the way to the city. If they kept their eyes fixed on Jesus, who was just before them, leading them to the city, they were safe. But soon, okay, this was soon. Soon, some grew weary, tired of walking, okay, and said the city was a great way off, and they had expected to have entered it before. And this would be the great disappointment, because they thought that by that time they would have been in the city already. Then Jesus would encourage them by raising his glorious right arm, and from his arm came a light which waved over the Advent band. Okay, that light was the third angel. Okay, the message of the third angel. This is the light that would comfort them in their disappointment. Okay, notice it waved over the Advent band, and they shouted, Alleluia! Others rashly denied the light. Okay, so rashly deny is that they did not investigate. Okay, they rashly denied the light. They didn't take the time to find if it's true or not. They just said, oh no, that's not true. That's it. That's how we rashly deny the light. Behind them. And said that it was not God that had led them out so far. So there's two different things that Satan does to have us fall off. He'll have us deny the light, and then also deny that it's Jesus, God, through God, or God through Jesus leading us to the city. And when this happens, we fall off the path that had led them out so far. The light behind them went out. So now, leaving their feet in perfect darkness, and they stumbled and lost sight of the mark and of Jesus. They couldn't see where they were stepping, and they also weren't able to see Jesus in front of them, and fell off the path down into the wicked world below. Okay? Continue. It was just as impossible for those that fell off for them to get on the path again and go to the city as all the wicked world which God had rejected. Okay? Those that fell off and rejected the light behind them, it was just as impossible for them to get back on as the whole world that God had rejected. They fell all the way along the path, one after another. Okay? So, we're gonna understand through this message that there were some very important people that had this message and fell off. Until we heard the voice of God like many waters. Ezekiel 43:2, Joel 3:16, Revelation 16:17, which gave us the day and hour of Jesus coming. Okay, so she saw many people falling off all along the path, all on the way to the city, right? And so the next thing she hears is God's voice, like many waters. Have you ever heard many waters, like in the river or a waterfall? many waters, right? It makes noise. Like when you take a shower, you get a lot of water. So this kind of get an idea. The voice sounded like many waters.
Voice of Jesus.
The voice of God, the
Oh,
Father,
the voice of God.
because it's
Oh, yeah,
God.
the
It
voice.
says God. It says until we heard the voice of God, like many waters, which gave us the day and hour of Jesus coming. Okay, this was the truth that was given to them under the midnight cry. Remember, Samuel Snow said that a better rendition of that verse, it says, "No man knoweth the day and hour of Jesus' second coming." He says, "No man maketh known the day and hour except for the Father." And so here it is. We're seeing it right here as well. So you can find this in Ezekiel 12:25 and Mark 13:32. All right? So that's the next thing she heard was the voice of God giving them the day and hour. Now notice, the living saints, the 144,000 in number, knew and understood the voice. So if they knew and understood the voice, that means that some didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, notice what it says. Knew and understood the voice, while the wicked, so there's going to be wicked people alive at that time. It says, while the wicked thought it was thunder and an earthquake. So the 144,000 hear the voice like many waters and they understand, right? They understand what the voice says, the day and hour of Jesus coming. But the wicked, those that hate God and hate the truth, they're going to hear thunder and an earthquake. That's what they're going to hear. That sounds scary, right? John 12:29. When God spake the time, okay, at that time, when God spoke, his words came out of his mouth, and those heard it, those that heard it understood, it says, he poured on them, on us. She's speaking as she's present at that time in this vision. Okay? He poured on us the Holy Ghost, and our faces began to light up and shine with the glory of God as Moses did when he came down from the mount. Okay? So is when God speaks the day and hour, those that understand it, their faces are gonna shine. Like Moses. Remember Moses when he was up on the mountain and he spoke with God? Remember? In the burning bush? And when he came down from the mountain, everybody told Moses, cover your face. It's too bright. And so he had to put a veil on so they couldn't see him. Yeah. It says, and our faces begin to light up and shine with the glory of God as Moses did when he came down from Mount Sinai. By this time, the 144,000 were all sealed. Okay? Notice, by this time. By this time. In other words, there's a time period and there's going to be people being sealed all the way down until that time. That sealing time is over. Is no more sealing. Okay? By this time, the 104,000 were all sealed. The number is complete. Okay? And perfectly united. On their foreheads was written God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing Jesus' new name, Revelation 3:12. At our happy and holy state, the wicked were enraged. Okay? Now we're talking about right before Jesus comes. They had already gone through a lot of trials, but this is the last trial right here.
The last
The last
one.
before Jesus comes. This is already under the 7 plagues. Okay? Notice, at our happy and holy state, the wicked were enraged. Those that hate God, those that hate the message. It says, and would rush violently up to lay hands on us, to thrust us into prison, when we would stretch forth the hand in the name of the Lord, and the wicked would fall helpless to the ground. When they went like this, in the name of the Lord, they fell back. There's one time that I know of in the book of John when Judas and the Jews went to go take Jesus, and they asked him, "Where's Jesus?" And then he said, "I am." And they fell. They fell to the ground. All the soldiers.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And so this is going to happen with the 144,000.
With the 100? Why?
144,000. Because they're going to persecute the 144,000. And they're going to go like that. Stop in the name of the Lord, and they fall. Mm-hmm. We'll read it. We'll read it later. Okay. Then it was that the synagogue of Satan knew that God had loved us, who would wash one another's feet and salute the holy brethren with a holy kiss. Okay? And they worshipped at our feet. Who worshiped at our feet? The synagogue of Satan. Okay? All of this we're going to study. This is Revelation 3:9. Soon our eyes were drawn to the east, for a small black cloud had appeared about half as large as a man's hand, which we all knew was the sign of the Son of Man. Matthew 24:30. So there's a small dark cloud in the sky. About my hand is smaller than a regular man, right? But you get the idea. It's a small cloud in the sky. And when they saw it, they knew who it was. It was Jesus coming. We all in solemn silence gazed on the cloud as it drew nearer, lighter and brighter and glorious and still more glorious, till it was a great white cloud. Revelation 14:14. The bottom appeared like fire. A rainbow was over it. Around the cloud were 10,000 angels singing a most lovely song. And on it sat the Son of Man. Luke 21:27. That's Jesus. On his head were crowns. Crowns, more than one. Revelation 19:12. His hair was white and curly and lay on his shoulders. Revelation 1:14. His feet had the appearance of fire. Revelation 1:15. In his right hand was a sharp sickle. You know what a sickle is? No? Yeah? No? Yeah? No?
No, I don't
know. No? Okay. A sickle is kind of like a machete, but it has this curl on it. It's like a hook, but it's big, and it has a blade on the inside, and that's so you could yeah, it's like harvesting. You know what harvest is? When you know? Yeah, you saw it on the YouTube. Yeah, yeah. The wheat. There you go. That's the one. Exactly. That's it. Okay, so Jesus comes and he has that tool. Okay,
Oh, wow.
because it's time for harvest. Okay, it's time for harvest. Notice what it continues says. Um, on the right hand is the sharp sickle, Revelation 14:14. In his left, a silver trumpet. Okay, he has a silver trumpet. That's First Thessalonians 4:16. This is he's gonna come with the trump of God. Revelation 14:6 or 4:16. I mean, First Thessalonians 4:16. Excuse me. His eyes were as a flame of fire. Revelation 1:14, which searched his children through and through. So he's gonna be looking at us when he comes to see if there's any sin in us. That's why it says he searched his children through and through. He can see through us. Then all faces gathered paleness. You know what it means when we're pale?
Pale. Your shirt.
Yeah, you're
White
right.
pale.
That's pale.
White.
It's white.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And those that God had rejected gathered blackness. Those that God rejected, their faces turned black.
Black. Oh, wow.
Like those shoes, yeah.
Like my boots.
Yep. Like those boots. And like my shoes.
Yep.
Okay? Then we all cried out, who shall be able to stand? Who shall be able to stand? Is my okay? Here's the question we're gonna ask ourselves: is my robe spotless? Tengo manchas? Is my robe spotless?
Yeah. Still.
I hope so.
But
That's good.
I hope so not.
But remember, this is when Jesus comes. This is the question where everybody's gonna ask: do I have sin?
Yeah.
Have I given up my sin? Have I asked forgiveness? Have to repent, yes. Then the angels ceased to sing. Remember the 10,000 angels that were singing? They ceased to sing. And there was some time of awful silence. Revelation 8:1. When Jesus spoke, that those who have clean hands, listen, those who have clean hands and pure heart shall be able to stand. My grace is sufficient for you. At this, our faces lighted up, and joy filled every heart. And the angel struck a note higher and sung again while the cloud drew still nearer the earth. Then Jesus' silver trumpet sounded as he descended on the cloud, wrapped in flames of fire. 2 Thessalonians 1:7 and 8. He gazed on the graves of the sleeping saints, then raised his eyes and hands to heaven and cried out. This is John 5:25. Awake, 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 ye that sleep in the dust, and arise. Then there was a mighty earthquake. There was a mighty earthquake. And this is why God. That's the whole point. God wants us to see it because it's gonna happen. Okay. Now we're gonna pause here. Next time we'll continue. Okay. This is a long vision, and just want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next Sabbath as we pick up where we left off. We're on slide 19. Um, If you have any comments, questions, feel free to post below or send me uh, an email as well, um, which you can find on my YouTube channel. May God continue to bless you, and as we continue to study this most important message at the end of the world. God bless.
And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up for ever and ever. And they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them.